All right, and that, should I adjourn the meeting now? No, just kidding. Okay. All right, so now we'll circle back to item number 5. And let me, hold on. Tee it up here for you, hold on. I'll go back to the, all right, let me find. This is a public hearing and introduction for General Plan Amendment 21-01, zoning amendment 433, Code Amendment 2101, mitigated negative declaration for the Slater Avenue mixed-use project located at 10201, 10221, and 10231 Slater Avenue. Presentation by David Crabtree, Interim Planning Building Director.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Good evening. And indeed, tonight you have the Slater investment project actions before you. As you know, this proposal represents a comprehensive change for the property from its historic use as office and restaurant to a new use of restaurant and residential. Now, as your interim director, my time with your city has been short, but in the few months that I've been here, I've been on a pretty steep learning curve, learned a lot about this project, as well as your overall update to your general plan. And I'm here tonight to give you some of the background on that too, and how the Slater proposal aligns with the general plan update work that you have underway. As an aside, before we get rolling too much on that, I wanted to take a moment and mention our principal planner, Stephen Ayers, has been the staff lead over the past year plus on this review. And he can't join us tonight, or he'd be here speaking to you. But I'd like to acknowledge Steve's leadership on this project review, and really everything I have to tell you about tonight is the result of his and other staff's analysis. I've had, as I've said, a rapid learning curve on related details, and that's much credit to your fine Fountain Valley planning staff, so thank you to them. Okay, so what we've got before you is a reuse, redevelopment of this approximately 3.4 acre site just across the street from where we're sitting today. And you have an air photo on the screen there. This proposal would remove the existing buildings and structures on the site and replace them with a mixed-use residential and commercial development. The proposed project would consist of 270 apartment homes with a varying 1 to 5 story building, within a varying 1 to 5 story building, together with a 5,000 square foot restaurant with 2,000 square feet of outdoor dining, and then an additional 1,660 square feet of commercial space, which is envisioned for use as an art gallery. All those uses surround or wrap a 6-level parking garage, which will contain 541 parking stalls. And the buildings vary in height, again, between 1 and 5 stories, with a maximum height of the overall facility being 76 feet at the very tip top of the elevator tower building, tower structure within the garage. Now, if I can advance a slide there, the area that you see in the pink or red as it shows up on this slide is the garage itself, and then the building other uses, mostly the apartment homes surround and camouflage that parking garage. The applicant is also going to tell you a lot more about these details and their proposed architectural program as part of their presentation, and so I won't spend a whole lot of time on that, but I wanted to show a few of the images that are provided here showing various street views. Again, you're going to see some more detail on this through the applicant's presentation. Now, I mentioned earlier the project is a change from the historic land use out at the site, as well as being a form of residential with up to 5-story building that is new and different for Fountain Valley. You haven't seen much of this development, if any, over the city's history. And that's worth some discussion and context and how it relates to your update to the general plan work that you've had underway. As the council knows, you've been working towards a comprehensive update of the general plan for the past several years, And a major component of that is for the chapter on housing, or what's called your housing element. General plans, and particularly housing elements of general plans, require review and approval by the state of California. And very critically, must address mandates and legal requirements from the state, including addressing something you'll hear of that's called the RHNA. That's RHNA. It's an acronym that stands for Regional Housing Needs Assessment. And it's the state-assigned allotment of new homes that a city's land use policies must accept and accommodate for growth over a period of time, typically an 8-year period. For Fountain Valley, the RHNA responsibility for your city for the next 2021 to 2029 planning period is 4,839 new homes. Now, importantly, that does not mean that the city of Fountain Valley is going to go out and build new homes. Cities don't do that. Private developers do that. But what you must do is provide land use policies in your general plan to accommodate that level of growth. Now, discussion and work on your housing element has identified what we call opportunity sites in the city where, if you're faced with future growth, are locations that city leaders feel may most appropriately be planned for that growth. Your draft housing element outlines 11 such sites where future growth might be best accommodated, and the Slater investment site is on that list. In other words, this site is one which has been identified, discussed, and vetted through your general plan advisory committee, your various community workshops that have taken place, and work sessions with the Planning Commission as well as the City Council. While this general plan update has not yet been completed, it's coming later this year, this site has been part of that plan to best accommodate future growth in Fountain Valley. Most specifically, this site has been earmarked to receive a mixed-use land use designation, which would allow it to be developed with up to 65 residential units per acre, something known as its base density. So that's the story on this site and how your work in progress housing element update envisions its future, but there's a little bit more I need to talk to you about for legal framework and state rules. In addition to what I've called the base density, the state allows developers density bonuses if their project includes and reserves affordable housing units. And importantly, these state bonuses cannot be denied by the city of Fountain Valley or any other city that they're proposed to occur in. The applicant is seeking to exercise the density bonus allowed by the state and is proposing to reserve 15% of its base density at qualified affordable rents. That's 33 units of their total, their project total. Okay, I'm going to pause here and take a bit of a breath because we're throwing a lot of technical information at you, and I promise you we're in the home stretch, but there's a little bit more. We're not quite done with state density bonus law. I need to also tell you about other provisions that it adds. If a project provides the affordable housing, then relief from city's certain standards is granted by the state to assist developers with the financial challenges of actually building and realizing affordable housing. Those relief measures are listed out in your staff report, and most are related to building design and architecture, but one important and sometimes confusing one worth a little explanation here is parking. Under the state law, projects which include affordable housing like this one, are granted reductions from the city's parking standards. For the Slater Investments project, the state standards would allow it to be parked with 364 stalls, parking stalls. This applicant, however, is proposing 541 parking stalls. So what they're proposing actually exceeds what we, the city, would normally be able to require under the state rules by 177 parking stalls. Importantly here, I also want to mention that the city requirements for commercial parking in the project have not been reduced. The applicant actually exceeds the city code for the number of commercial stalls available at the project by 14. So they're just looking to reduce what's allowed under the state law for residential. All of these parking numbers, again, very technical, but they're in your staff report. The quick summary being, the project is proposed with considerably more parking, 177 stalls, than we would otherwise be allowed to require it under state law. We need to transition in the home stretch here to talk about CEQA for a moment. As the council knows, any project that comes before you needs clearance under the California Environmental Quality Act, CEQA, and certainly this project is no exception. Here, the total of the actions include not only the land plan for development, which the Planning Commission reviewed and approved, but now on to the council, the proposed general plan and code amendments. And so all of this is evaluated under the CEQA guidelines, and the associated studies are all contained in what's called the mitigated negative declaration document before you. In summary, the project does not result in any environmental impacts which cannot be mitigated to a level of less than significant under CEQA legal thresholds. Now, importantly, this is not to say that with a project with these various components, 270 new homes, this is not to say that, for example, traffic in the area is not expected to change. It's reasonable to assume that if this project were approved and constructed, traffic in the area could very well change. It would likely change. But what the technical studies bear out is that the traffic generated from the project, as well as foreseeable future traffic, cumulative traffic, that the road system is designed to handle that capacity. The applicant is responsible for some mitigation to the roadway system for lane striping adjustments at the Slater and Brookhurst intersection. They will also be paying their fair share traffic impact fees towards circulation system master planned improvements that the city has planned so that they contribute to that. And then with these mitigations in place, the project can be accommodated within the existing street system without significant impacts. As you will also see in the MND, Mitigated Neg Deck document, several comments were received during its public review, and the applicant has gone beyond legal requirements and actually provided comprehensive written responses to these comments, all of which are now part of the public record. The clerk this evening, city clerk, has noted as well that additional correspondence has been received regarding the environmental studies. We received a letter yesterday as well as today, and the applicants today have provided responses for the record, which are also available, and you've been provided copies. We have copies in the lobby for the public. So it's also important to note regarding the CEQA analysis, the city has retained independent third-party professional peer review of all the work provided from the applicant, and while we have not had a chance to review the information they've provided today, to date we concur with the methodology and findings of the studies and responses to comments that they have provided. So long-winded, but in summary, the proposal has met the review criteria under CEQA, we feel, to merit approval of the mitigated neg deck. So let me attempt to wrap up my portion of this presentation and turn things over to the applicants so they can tell you more about their project. What the council has requested to consider tonight are really four things. You have the general plan amendment to change the site from general commercial to mixed use 1. You have the zoning map amendment to change this site from local business to mixed use 1. You have the code amendment to add mixed use development criteria to the code. And then finally, wrapping it all up, you have approval of the mitigated negative declaration, clearing all these actions under CEQA. Your Planning Commission has recommended all these actions to you for approval. And just to clarify again, the Commission has acted to approve what's called the precise development plan, precise plan for development, an action which stops with them and is not before the Council. However, it is conditioned, its approval is contingent on the actions before you tonight being approved. And with that, Mr. Mayor, I can certainly take any clarifying questions you may have of me at this time. Or if you'd like to hold those, we do have the applicant stage to provide their presentation as well.
Okay. Any questions from the council? Yes. Councilmember Grandis.
So you mentioned that we need 4,839 new dwellings. I was doing just some quick math up here, and this project only hits about 5.7% of what we're required to do. So we still have another 94% to develop in order to hit those numbers. I just want to make sure my thinking on that is correct.
Sounds like it is. The clarification I'd only provide is what you're obligated to do for the state is provide land use policies to accommodate that level of growth.
Zone for it.
Right.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that. Yep. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I had a couple of questions for you at this time.
Sure.
One is, I understand there's a environmental impact report being done on the general plan update.
Correct.
And how does that interact with this development?
Sure. Well, save for that general plan comprehensive update being completed, if this project came along, it likely wouldn't have to do its further CEQA analysis. This project is, if you will, running ahead of that process, and so it is obligated to provide its own level of CEQA analysis. The general plan comprehensive update in its EIR will also, include this project as part of that anticipated growth in its analysis. I'm not sure if that quite gets to your question, but they're kind of on a parallel track, if you will.
I think so, yeah. Second question is, can you explain for the public more about the density bonuses and how that works?
Sure. What you have under state law basically are incentives for the development community to provide affordable housing. The state recognizes that there are certain financial challenges, if you will, to actually building and realizing affordable housing. If developers are to only receive, just by example, certain levels of rent, they may need to build more units to make the new construction or any renovation construction pencil out, if you will. And so the state has provided legislation bumping up the density that a project can have in order to try to overcome some of those financial challenges for the development.
So by adding, let's say in this case, 15% affordable housing, what's the corresponding allowable increase in density?
Well, I believe for that level, and I don't have the state law memorized, but I think you're at a 25% allowed increase. But I'd have to pull some of that. The applicant's team may have some more concise responses too. But
and I understand in certain circumstances, it could be as much as they could earn a 50% density bonus.
That's true. Depending on the level of affordability, it does increase, quite a bit.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem Constantine.
So I just want to clarify for everybody in the audience watching and then those watching at home. We talked homes, we talked housing. To be clear, these are apartments and apartment rentals, just for clarification. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, Councilmember Grandis.
So you mentioned that the state says that we have to allow for these bonuses. What happens if we just say, sorry, we're not going to do that? I mean, what happens if we just flat out refuse?
This is usually the time I'll want to defer to the city attorney. Because I know he's just anxious to want to pounce on a question like that.
We would be subject to enforcement action by HCD or the Attorney General, and the current policies of the state are very pro-housing, and the state has asked HCD to be very aggressive about going after local public agencies on housing issues. So by denying a density bonus or not taking actions to further housing, we could find ourselves subject to one of those cases.
Go Go ahead.
So one of those cases, what are some of the penalties? Things we've heard are there's actual fines that could occur, and one thing that's been bouncing around is local control. Maybe you could touch on that, please.
There are, yes. Some of the requested relief is, number one, they'll ask a judge to overturn whatever decision the council has and come back and reconsider it if a judge finds that the council acted contrary to law. Other things they can do is ask the judge to take away local control. They can issue orders to stop cities from issuing building permits. They will put in a number of things that cities must correct within 60 days, and if cities don't correct it within 60 days, then we're subject, under the Housing Accountability Act, to fines of up to $10,000 per unit. That's some of the things that we have to look at when we address the housing issue.
And when you say we lose on local control, then we can't issue permits. Who issues the permits then?
The building permits, generally for commercial, are stopped until we correct whatever housing issue we have pending and come back to the court and tell the judge that we've corrected it. Then the judge will lift whatever decree has prevented us from issuing commercial building permits.
What about residential?
I haven't heard of a judge preventing a city from issuing residential permits. The tendency tends to be wanting cities to build residential, so they're not doing things to stop cities from allowing residential buildings to go forward.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
I think Councilmember Vo wanted to speak. So,
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Crabtree, would this proposed 270 unit be including the number of 48, 39 RENA number that we are required to?
It would count towards that obligation.
Even
yes.
though they are apartments?
Yes.
Okay. And from what I remember, the deadline for the city to certify this RENA number was last year, correct?
I assume, Councilmember, you mean to adopt your housing element?
Correct.
Yes, the state law has requirements that was for October 2021 was the target and deadline for adoption.
Right.
Which the city, like most cities in the SCAG region, are working diligently towards. Most have not accomplished that. HCD up at the state is keeping very busy reviewing draft elements, and your city has made considerable progress towards that.
And so basically the deadline was extended.
I couldn't characterize it as being extended, but what some of the legislation has done, and others may have some additional detail, but they basically, if elements were not adopted by February of this year, then the new obligation is you must adopt not only your housing element, but any and all of its implementing actions, such as new zoning, by this coming October 2022. And I'd just add, you are on target to do so.
So February of this year, which is 2 months ago. We are April now, right?
I'm sorry?
You mentioned that we have to come up with some solution by February of this year, which is 2 months ago.
Yeah, if your element was not adopted by February, then your new obligation is you must adopt the element as well as all of its implementing actions, all of its zoning, which previously you had 3 years to adopt. Now you're under deadline to do all of the package, if you will, by this October 2022.
All right. So basically our RAP debt due date is October of 22.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you, sir.
thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Constantine?
Sure. I just wanted to say something about local control. Today, a couple of us went to the Chamber of Commerce luncheon, Councilmember Bowie, Councilmember Grandis, and Orange County District Attorney Todd Spitzer spoke, happened to mention we've lost local control simply because ADUs are permitted. We have no say. And I'm going to throw in there SB 9 with the SB 9 and SB 10, though we do have control over the SB 10. So just a little bit of FYI about local control. Thank you. we've lost some.
Councilmember Bowie, you had a comment?
Thank you, Mayor. Council Colin, can you I want to make sure the clarification that I understand your explanation a little bit earlier. So if we don't, whether we move forward with this project or not, an HCD will take control over it. And if we don't move, if we do move over, how should I say this? If we move this project forward, then the burden will be on the developer to explain on SECA requirement. And if we don't, then it's us to explain with HCD.
That's correct. If we approve the project and there's a challenge, the burden will fall on the developer to defend it.
Okay. And if we don't, then what would be the cost to the city?
It depends on the case. If we don't approve it and we get sued, then the burden's going to be on us to defend ourselves.
And what is the likely us of winning the case against HCD?
It depends on the action that the council takes. I think that there are ways to frame decisions. Without knowing the action the council is going to take, I'm not sure. I know that HCD is very aggressive in its cases, has been, still is, has issued letters to the cities, City of Encinitas recently. So they're taking very forward and aggressive stances on housing issues. I can say that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I'd just like to point out Mr. Bowie's comment that this this project, this site is currently zoned for commercial. So, before the HCD would take any action, it would have to be zoned for housing, and it's not. So I don't think anything we do today is going to trigger an HCD response. Okay, all right, I think we're done.
Thank you.
Yep, okay, next.
I'll turn things over to the applicant's team then. At your,
Okay, yeah, come on up.
Good evening.
All right.
Thank you, Mayor Harper, council members. My name is Peggy Tabas, and I'm a partner in Slater Investments. Can everybody hear me?
What? No, yes, yeah, we can hear you. Oh, okay, speak into the, try to speak more into the microphone.
We'll try it this way.
Okay.
How about now? Our mouse is not working. Oh. Yeah, but we need the mouse. It doesn't work? No, because we wanted to scroll in and out. Okay. Sorry about that. We're very pleased to be here this evening to present our project for your consideration and to respectfully request your approval. But first, I want to thank Stephen Ayers and Dave Crabtree again for all of their efforts throughout this process, which were extraordinary. And for Dave's presentation this evening, thank you very much. For us, this has been a project 4 years in the making. And during these past 4 years, I've had the pleasure of getting to know many longtime residents, business owners, and business leaders. And I want to thank all of them tonight for sharing their time and their points of view on the prospect of development in their city, and in particular, on our site. All of their input has been very valuable to us, and a lot of their ideas have been incorporated into the plan before you. From the outset, we've been very transparent to the community of our desire to develop a multifamily project on our property. We conducted 4 community outreach sessions in 2019 and 2020. One of those meetings, which was held at the Ayers Hotel, specifically targeted those who live or own property within 1,000 feet of our site. We were able to get 35 people to show up that night, and we had a lot of good feedback. And again, much of that has found its way into our plan. As the owners of an opportunity site, we participated in the general plan update process from the very beginning. We've attended all of the GPAC sessions. We provided input, answered questions as appropriate. That process has been very well thought out and well executed, open to everyone, and very, very thorough in its scope. At staff's request, we helped develop a new mixed-use zoning code for the city. This is a code we all believe will now ensure that not just our project, but all other future mixed-use projects in the city will be of high quality, aesthetically pleasing, and beneficial to the entire community. We've conducted a thorough environmental analysis of our project, studying, among other things, traffic, noise, air quality, and infrastructure. All of our scopes of work, our studies, our findings were reviewed by DeNova, a third-party consultant hired by planning staff. The final MND, the mitigated neck deck before you, incorporates all of DeNova's comments and changes. Mitigation measures, including the traffic mitigation measures, have been incorporated into the conditions of approval. And I think you can see from the comprehensiveness of the package before you, staff has thoroughly reviewed every nook and cranny of this plan. Every dimension and calc has been checked and verified. And every element of the building has been studied and measured against code. You can thank Stephen Ayers for that. Dave did a great job tonight describing the foundation of our proposal. We have a power presentation of our own to highlight those elements of the project that we think makes this project special and worthy of your approval. But before I get started, I want to introduce the team. I have my assistant here, my architect, Mike Heinrich, who can do a lot more than just scroll through PowerPoints. We have Rafiq Albert, Megan Macias, and Connie DeBreva from EPD Solutions, our CEQA professionals and traffic engineers and planners. Jeff Okamoto from Hewitt Sollers, our civil engineer. Mark Schattinger from MJS, our landscape architect. Greg Powers from Jackson Titus, our land use attorney. And Michael Gaddy, our construction management consultant. All of them are available later for technical questions if necessary, requested. From the outset, my partner and I believed that this site had the essential ingredients for a successful multifamily mixed-use project. Its proximity to the 405 freeway at Brookhurst, it's less than a mile. Its proximity to Fountain Valley jobs, and for that matter, proximity to thousands more jobs just outside in neighboring cities. Its compatibility with adjacent existing development. It has sufficient infrastructure in place to support a project of this size and type, and a new and expanded 405 freeway with improved on and off ramps that will be completed by the end of '23. I want to talk a little bit and kind of focus on employment for a second, because I think employment, and I know employment, is really the driver for this project and for others that will likely follow. According to your planning consultant, PlaceWorks, there are 33,000 jobs here in the city. A big percentage of those jobs are within 1 mile of our property. And this slide highlights just the largest 4 employers, all within a mile. Together, these 4 represent almost 6,000 jobs. These companies and all of the other companies here in town need to recruit and retain quality employees. We just spoke about that in an earlier item this evening. So having new, attractive housing close by is a big advantage, especially when annual turnover is relatively high and the competition for good people is relatively high. I also want to add that for a very long time, the emphasis here in town has been on bringing jobs to Fountain Valley. And you all have been very successful on that front, which is why there are now 33,000 jobs here. But it's now time to refocus the attention on bringing housing to those jobs, and the right type of housing that will make an appreciable difference. And by that I mean reduced traffic, improved quality of life, and new city revenue. And all of that is a perfect transition to our project and our proposal. Slater Avenue, which is what we call our project, is a unique mixed-use project that includes luxury multifamily living alongside restaurants and commercial uses. It's self-contained, it's highly livable, and essentially it's its own social community within a community. And within this luxury lifestyle center, there will be 33 low-income affordable units, with those residents enjoying the same full array of amenities and benefits as everyone else in that project. Our plan is consistent with GPAC recommendations. It's consistent with the draft housing element submitted by staff to state in October. It helps meet the state's RHNA mandate. And while 270 units is not much more than 5%, it shows the state you're making progress. This plan encourages public and private gathering. It provides high-quality architecture that's classic in style, but modern in function. It brings significant new revenue to the city, and it sets an example for all of the other opportunity sites that will follow. There are so many great elements in our plan that distinguishes this project from other projects you may have seen in Huntington Beach, Costa Mesa, Santa Ana. And I don't mean to keep picking on Elon, but this project is nothing like Elon. Elon is at Beach and Ellis in Huntington Beach, for those of you who don't know it. Elon has no street landscaping, no public gathering spaces, no setbacks, no step backs, no courtyards. It may be lovely on the inside, but for those who drive by or walk by on a regular basis, there's limited curb appeal. So let me talk to you about our project and what we've got. First, let me explain how it works. We call this wrap product because essentially we have a multi-level parking structure completely surrounded by building. The benefits of that is the parking is concealed entirely from off-site views. It's efficient, and it's convenient to the residents. Our residents will park on approximately the same level as their home. They will have a relatively short walk from the car to the front door. It's a very efficient layout. The garage contains 541 parking spaces using relatively limited ground area, thereby maximizing open space and landscaping. And all restaurant and commercial parking is provided for in this structure, separate from the residential spaces, which are secured. I want to touch on parking a little bit more this evening. This is an issue that came up more than once at the Planning Commission last month. I want to just explain further that our plan uses the same parking criteria that is contained in the crossing specific plan, which was approved by the council in 2018. We used exactly the same criteria for the residential. Early on in our planning process, the planning director agreed that's what we should do, since that represented the council's latest thinking on parking. So of the 541 parking spaces provided, 485 of those spaces are reserved for residents and their guests. 56 spaces, sorry we have a typo in there, 56 spaces are provided for the restaurant, which also including the patio, the coffee bar, the leasing office, and the art gallery. And as Dave mentioned before, that's 14 more than city code or crossings requires. But that's to make sure we have plenty of customer parking. The 485 spaces equates to 1.8 spaces per unit. And that's based on our unit mix, which is 62% studio and one bedroom, and only 37% two bedroom and 1% three bedroom, which is 4 units. We are confident we've provided enough parking to support the lease up of all of our units, because that's really our goal, 100% occupancy. It's tough to get there, but that's our goal. And we can't get there if we run out of garage spaces. That's why we're providing far more parking than the state requires and more than most other similar projects in surrounding cities. Our residential spaces will be assigned. There won't be anybody able to steal spaces by having an extra tenant in their spot. They can only be used for parking a car. I make that distinction because garages can and often are used for other purposes. Not so in this particular garage. When those garages are used for other purposes, it forces cars out onto the street. I also want to add that during the life of this project, car ownership will decline. And the life of this project could be 100 years plus. It will decline, and it already has among millennials. And in many cases, it will be...
100 years plus, the life...
Excuse me, please be quiet in the audience. Thank you.
In many cases, cars will be replaced by ride sharing, daily car rentals, other modes of transportation. As to the existing street parking situation around our site, this project is not going to add to the problem. But as I've suggested before, a parking management plan for the neighborhood would be a great idea. There are a number of tools available to the city that can really control the on-street parking situation. So now I want to get back off of parking for a while. I think I beat that to death for now. Our building form. As Dave mentioned, our building is a combination of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 stories. And yes, our parking garage is 6 levels, but it being on the interior of the site, you won't be able to see that from off-site. We've been very sensitive to the community's concern about height and mass, which is why the building on Slater Avenue, San Mateo Street, and at the northeast corner of this site are a maximum of 4 stories. We created an even lower building profile at the corner of Slater and San Mateo. You can see there, consisting of 1 to 3 stories. The building jogs, the setbacks, the building breaks, and the varied roof lines set this project apart from most, if not all, similar multifamily projects in the county. Together, these elements will maximize curb appeal and create usable public and private open space along all of our street frontage. Next. And I want to talk about the community for a second. There is plenty in our plan for the entire community, not just the residents of this project. A restaurant with outdoor patio, together with a walk-up coffee and lunch bar, will provide all-day dining options for everyone. We have an art gallery adjacent to the leasing office we hope will give local artists, as well as other artists, a regular space to exhibit their work. It will be the first one in Fountain Valley. And with 270 units, we believe there will be plenty of blank walls to fill, so we think this will be a compatible and suitable use. I want to brag about our streetscape plan for a little bit. Next. Oh. By the way, I forgot to mention, scroll back. We have 2 public plazas, one at the corner of San Mateo and Slater, one at San Mateo and El Corazon, that will be furnished, available for sitting, people watching, working, etc., for everybody in the community. So on our streetscape, from the very start, as Mike knows, the plan was to provide a very robust perimeter landscaping to maximize curb appeal and soften the edges of the building. We believe we've accomplished that. The street trees, the foundation and courtyard landscaping shown here will provide a beautiful setting for this building in the years to come. As I have said before many times, the building will look great on day one, but the landscaping will keep getting better and better as the years go by. Now, on site, next. We have many, many amenities and recreational options for the benefit of our residents. There's a pool, a spa, an outdoor living room, and cabanas in the interior courtyard. We have a fitness center and yoga studio located on San Mateo, and that was done purposely to create some activity on the street. We want people to be active on the inside of the building and also around the outside of our building too. We have a club room and lounge. We have a golf simulation room, dog relief areas. We anticipate our tenants, 30% of our tenants will have dogs. We have 2 roof decks. They will be the first residential roof decks in Fountain Valley. The first on top of the parking garage will have the panoramic views, be fully amenitized with lounge chairs and landscaping and barbecue pits and fire pits, etc. And a secondary roof deck right over the restaurant. That was just a natural area, a walkout deck area we turned into an amenity. Also with, people watching spot with lounge chairs and landscaping, etc. And then I will briefly point out along the east side of our project, we have a 20-foot wide easement that runs from Slater all the way back to our North PL. The fire department requires that within that easement, we have a 15-foot wide drive for emergency access vehicles. What we've done is turn something that could have been kind of bleak and just, a requirement into an amenity. We've got painted floor games in the drive itself, shuffleboard, hopscotch, etc. And we've been able to meander the drive just enough so that we could fit pockets of landscaping on both sides, so to create an amenity out of what could have been something, like I said, pretty boring. By the way, the fire marshal has approved this concept and has applauded our efforts of turning it into something special. Other elements of our plan include that you would need for a project like this: a leasing office, a mail room, and a dedicated package delivery, all located on San Mateo. As in other similar projects, this area will become a hub of activity too, late in the afternoon as people are picking up their packages and mail, etc. And then we have a yoga studio, which is located on San Mateo, I mentioned before. It will have a flex meeting room space that could be made available for chamber meetings or city meetings like mayor's breakfast. We're so close to City Hall, we thought that might be of value. And then there are a number of other features that will not only enhance the livability for our residents, but will minimize inconveniences to the surrounding neighborhood. For example, on-site move-ins and move-outs, where you see the number 1, our moving trucks will pull completely onto our site for loading and unloading. Move-ins and move-outs will not interfere with El Corazon traffic. The trash management system has been fully vetted by city staff and Republic, the city's trash service company. Collection and pickup will be entirely on-site. That's at number 2 over there. And of course, we have the right number of bins, and with daily pickups, we will not have a trash problem on our property. We have a designated ride share pickup spot on San Mateo. Last thing we want is Uber and Lyft drivers interfering with traffic flow on Slater and San Mateo. So we have 1 spot. We have emergency access on all 4 sides. We have plenty of bicycle parking and storage, plenty of residential storage, not only near the residents, but also in the parking garage too. And we have electrical car charging on every level of the parking structure. So now we want to flip over, Mike. what we've done is, it's one thing to look at our plan and look at our renderings and our elevations, but you don't really get the full flavor without a three-dimensional view. This is just of the perimeter of our building, and it will give you, slow it down for a second, stop. Pause it, there we go. This will give you an idea of what it's going to be like to drive by or walk by this project. So we're starting, as you can see, we're starting at the corner at the restaurant, which we have called Sullivan's, our homage to Silky. You can see, slow it down a little bit, as we get by the big car right there. You can see the variety of building materials, the variety of color, glass. It's really going to add a lot of richness to this building. And also look at the varied roof lines. It's not all one height. And there's a lot of building step backs as you move down the street. The white umbrellas are located where the outdoor patio of the restaurant would be. So let's keep trucking. So we've made our street trees transparent so you can see the building, but in real life they'll be a lot denser. Again, we got the brick, we've got concrete cornices, a wide variety of window types, building breaks, and then the building sets way back for a nice big courtyard along Slater. This is all 4-story here, as I mentioned before. Now we're coming to the end. We kind of cap it off with another brick element. And we're coming up to the easement that I just talked about. Now the gray buildings next door, that you're looking at, those are the carports from the Havens. That's actually scaled way too high for those carports, but those are carports. The actual Havens units are way back there. Yes, thank you. So now we're going to turn around and head back down Slater toward Brookhurst. Give you a flavor if you're coming from Ward, what this building will look like. You can see there's plenty of room, how much setback there is, because there's plenty of room for people to walk. There's plenty of room for landscaping, sitting, hanging out, benches. This is not typical of some of the projects you have been seeing. Now we're coming back to the corner, and then as we go around the corner, you see our big plaza. We hope there'll be as many people in real life as there is in this picture. This is the front of the restaurant, and here's the public plaza in front. And then as we go down San Mateo, you'll start to pick up on our walk-up coffee and lunch bar. You see where the umbrellas and the little sign there out front telling what's the special for the day. And then we have our driveway, a garage entrance and exit right there. Again, let's stop for a second. Look, the building, we've changed colors. We've brought in a lighter color on San Mateo. It doesn't look like exactly like the Slater elevation. We've made some changes. We've really broken it up. There's a lot of glass and a lot of interesting glass here. And notice that above, this is our leasing office and art gallery. It's only 3-story element, by the way. So there's our art gallery with the double glass doors, and then our leasing office. And then you'll come to a little bit further down is the fitness center that I described before. And then another big courtyard on San Mateo. Plenty of room for people to be gathering, sitting, and walking, etc. And then we're heading down towards El Corazon to the next plaza. And that plaza has a big specimen tree. It's got furnishings. Anybody can hang out, sit, get some work done, read their phone. And then we're going to the rear of our building on El Corazon. This, by the way, this corner of that building is 74 feet. The interior corner of that building is 74 feet from the curb. There's a lot of room there that you don't see in typical projects. And then here's the backside of our building, but still, a lot of step backs, a lot of glass, a lot of elements, a lot of landscaping. And that comes to the end of our movie. So if we can go back to the PowerPoint for a second. So what are the benefits to the community? Well, first, new revenue to the city. Sales tax revenue, both direct and indirect, together with the city's share of property tax revenue, will be approximately $350,000 a year. That's triple what you're getting from our property now. Developer fees will be in excess of $11 million. It's a one-time fee, but it's a big number. And that's comprised of impact fees, park fees, plan check and permit fees, and school fees. All of these fees will go a long way to supporting programs and upgrades throughout the city. The school districts will receive in excess of $800,000 to be used for books, computer equipment, and other educational tools. It's a nice windfall for the school districts. And then there are a lot of non-monetary benefits as well, also extremely important. Providing housing for local employees, which is what our goal is, will reduce traffic. And that's a win for everybody. It will help employers with recruiting and retaining employees. It will give local young people a new, hip place to live and provide them a social community in the city where they grew up and want to stay. I know that's important to them, and I know that's important to a lot of the parents here tonight and here in the community. It will provide affordable housing in a luxury lifestyle center. If we're allowed, we'd like to prioritize those units for Fountain Valley employees. I'm not sure we're allowed, but if we are, we're shaking your head no. Okay. Well, we hope they get to the top of the list. Our new residents will be supporting all the local businesses. They'll be dining, drinking, shopping, getting their hair done, nails, et cetera, et cetera. Our 2 public plazas will become gathering spaces for the city, and we know that's much needed here. And this project will inspire more high quality, thoughtful development throughout the city. We believe this to be a catalyst project, and we are very much looking forward to seeing it come to fruition. And to sum it all up, we think this is a great project in the right location and at the right time. So thank you for letting me make this long-winded presentation. We welcome any of your questions and comments. My team is here if you need them. And again, we respectfully request your approval tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any questions from the council at this time?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I do.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Constantine.
Okay, so I think as far as city council, I think especially for me and our audience here and audience viewing at home, it's important that we at least address what we've heard so far, because I have a lot more, but that'll be later. So with that being said, thank you, Peggy, and it was a great presentation, and you've been a great partner to the city and the community, and we appreciate that. A couple of things here. You did mention a parking management tools for the city. I have some people going onto my social media saying that you had said in the Planning Commission meeting on March 9th that you would be bringing in a parking management company, and I'm thinking no, because you don't have any parking problems. You'd be providing this complex. You're not going to be solving the issues that we have in our area, in our neighborhoods. Is that correct?
That's correct. Somebody must have misheard that comment because,
Sure.
Yes, the city would I was recommending the city undertake a parking management study, hire a consultant, and take a look at this neighborhood. There are a number of tools, parking permits by address, parking sharing agreements. There's so many tools out there. And I think if the city would take a look at those, we could go a long way to solving the existing problem.
Okay. And then the parking garage, is the entrance and exit on San Mateo?
Yes.
Just for clarification? Okay.
Yes.
And I understand there's one way in and one way out?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Then, let's see here. Just one comment to I know you were talking about the Fountain Valley Crossing specific plan. Quite frankly, it wasn't specific, and we've had to tweak that several times with the prior council. So the Fountain Valley Crossing specific plan was a plan that was not specific, but we are making it more specific, and we've had a few agenda items. I've been on that council that has had agenda items before me adjusting the plan to make it more specific. So I just want to clear that up for the audience watching at home. And here's a really, really big one, and it's very important. And I watched the Planning Commission meeting from home, and then I watched multiple playbacks. I mean, I could recite most of it seriously, and it's a good thing because I'm very interested. And I heard you speak tonight, and you said about Sullivan's, the restaurant, it's an homage to Silky's. Okay, so for the audience at home and the audience here, can you please enlighten us a little bit about that? If this project were to be approved tonight by City Council majority, what do you really see going in that space? Because we have people thinking that that restaurant is not going to be demolished, that it's going to be remodeled. Well, we know that's not true. If you could maybe tell us really specifically what's going to go in that space, what the timeline is, again, if this is approved by City Council majority, when that might be closed, when the demolition could be, and not just for the restaurant, it would be the 3 buildings, the restaurant, the 2 adjacent office buildings, and then when might the new construction start? What's the timing? I've seen things that it's like 15 months, but you know, construction is construction, so it could take longer. But really, really enlighten us, please. What's going to go in that space that says restaurant, that shows Sullivan's? Is it going to be Silky Sullivan's all over again? Thank
Mayor
you.
Pro Tem, good question. So you can see from the renderings and from our little movie and our plan, our plan is to tear down Silky Sullivan's as you know it today and rebuild a mixed-use project that is comprised of housing and commercial uses. A part of that is the restaurant. It's got a completely different look to it, as you can see, and it also includes an outdoor patio, and we think the same tenant will want to operate the coffee and walk-up lunch bar, but we're not sure. First of all, to address the Silky issue, you know, we're not restaurant operators, so we would be seeking a restaurant operator to rent that place from us and run it in long-term lease and be part of the city. We will be looking at proposals. If Bill Madden of Silky Sullivan's wants to submit a proposal, we're delighted to look at that. We're delighted for his input. If he chooses, if he has the energy, if he has the capital, we're happy to look at that. We're not going to rule it in or rule it out. We're wide open. I will tell you in all candor, his lease ends January 31st of 2023. So that's 8 months from now. The demolishing and the rebuilding of the project would take 2+ years. And then there would be what's called the fit out of the restaurant, which would take additional time. So there's a long period of time where if we were Bill coming back, he'd have to go somewhere else for a while before he could come back with a whole new game plan. So I hope I've answered your question.
Sure, thank you very much.
Yeah, Councilmember Grandis?
So I just want to follow up on the Silky's part for just a second, because we've all seen Save Silky's and all that. My question to you is, who did you buy that from, that restaurant, the property?
I brought it from the Maddens, and they had a third partner I never met.
And how much did you pay for it?
I believe it's 2.37.
So the owners of that property sold it willingly for $2.3 million.
Plus, yeah.
Okay. So you didn't have to force them to sell or anything. They chose to sell.
That's correct.
Okay. I held a coffee with a council member last week, and I had a about 37 different people who showed up and asked questions, and I wrote down some of them here that I would want to represent them. So some of the questions, again, I'm going to just represent what they say. One of them is they wanted to know about the guest parking and restaurant parking. Is that something that you're going to be charging for, or will that be free parking?
The restaurant parking, we have no plan to do that, no. For the commercial, no.
Also, there was a question on the trash. So you mentioned the trash in the back corner of the building. What about for the restaurant? Is that also there, or where is the trash for the restaurant going to be?
It is, and that's because of the city requirement that there can be no trash collection on the street. So the only plan that we could work out with the city and that worked for us and Republic was one in which the trash from the restaurant will be carried through the parking structure and out to the back on a daily basis. It's not our preferred plan, but the city's code says no on-street pickup of trash, as it is right now.
So I
Think
noticed.
about that in the future.
Okay, thank you. And according to the traffics and parking studies, I noticed that there's from 7 a.m. to 9 a.m., 53 trips per hour, I think it is, part of the traffic impact study. So has there been any thought of, instead of everybody making a left and going to Slater and backing that area up there, would it be possible to do a right turn only and then have them make that first left and get to a traffic signal versus making a left out of the parking structure during the busy times? Seems like that might alleviate things a little bit.
Well, that goes to a whole nother issue of commuter travel times being 7 to 9 in the morning and 5 to 6 in the afternoon. You know, that's not necessarily the case anymore. Commuter travel patterns have really changed. There's flex hours. A lot of companies are now going to a 3-2 work week, 3 days in the office, 2 days at home. We all know that there's plenty of them that have allowed 5 days a week work from home. And those 3-2s have been spread out, so not everybody's taking the same 3 days in the office and 2 days at home, all of which adds up to, we don't expect the same kind of morning congestion that there used to be as we go forward. We just don't. But to answer your question, I think what commuters will tend to do is to take the easiest way. And if that's a right and go out down San Mateo, then they'll take the right. And if it's easier to hop on Brookhurst, they'll take the left. Hopefully they work right nearby and they can walk.
There you go. So one of the concerns too is that there's one opening, one exit to the property on Los Alamos, and it's pretty close to Slater.
San Mateo,
I'm sorry, San Mateo.
right?
I live off Los Alamos. San Mateo. And is it possible to move that opening further back from Slater, closer to Warner, but not obviously, I mean, just telling you that direction, to give more room for those making a left onto San Mateo going towards Slater, a little bit more parking room, or room to exit?
First of all, all the queuing and backing up that will happen in the garage and not on San Mateo. So we've looked very carefully, Public Works Department has looked very carefully at this. Our civil engineer, it wouldn't be there unless they looked at it and said, this works. So the queuing of, let's just say one morning everybody decides to leave at the same time. The queuing will be backed up into our garage and will become our problem. Mm-hmm. We'll hear about it and we'll have to fix it.
Okay, and then I had a question on the electric charging stations. So you said there was going to be someone in every floor. Do you have an idea of how many?
Well, you know, we're going to put in infrastructure so that almost every single space, could at one point. Will we have the charger there day one? No, but we'll have a fair amount on every floor from day one. But I strongly suspect we're going to be adding more and more and more with every passing year. That makes sense to me.
Okay. All right, that's all the questions I have at this point.
Councilmember Bowie?
Thank you, Mayor Harper. First of all, Peggy, thank you for the wonderful presentations. I find the building to be very appealing, and it looks like you and your departments have put a lot of thoughts into this. You mentioned about potential revenue generating for the city. Earlier I saw the number 350,000 a year for the property. And you did not include also the increase every year, that 1% in there, right? Did you? On the property?
The Measure H, or the increase in
The
property
increase
tax?
in the property
No, I
tax.
did not. No,
Okay. And about 11 millions on the developer fees. And do you have a projections on the sales? If there's restaurants in there was a projection on sales that you could generate. Do you have a projection on that?
Well, I don't know whether it's confidential, but I base it off how Silky's is doing now, which is smaller but busy. And I don't know if Mr. Madden would like me to share that with the crowd, but
Okay.
we've boosted it up.
No.
We're expecting more.
All right. Thank you then.
Happy to share that off the record, though.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Vogt.
Thank you, Peggy, for the presentation. I think the public is have a chance of viewing the video, and I think it's tell the whole story about your project. Do you familiar with the Prado affordable housing that the city just finished last year?
Yes.
And that unit, that Prado affordable housing was 50 units that we provide to our resident. That is a $30 million project. And the city spent $8.2 million. We gave that money to the developers so that they can help the city with the affordable housing unit.
Right.
On your plan, you are providing 33 affordable housing units. Do we pay you anything for that?
No, and that's the reason for the density bonus.
All right, so you get the
legislation.
bonus instead of we pay
That's
you.
correct.
All right.
Just for clarification, if I may, we will enter into an affordable housing agreement with the city once we get through the approval process. And we'll be required to keep those units affordable for 55 years. So that's, 55 years of subsidizing those 33 units. So in return for that, that's why it seems like the density bonus law is like way out of control. But in return for that, in return for building those kinds of affordable units, for which the state can't do, the cities can't do, we get bonus density and we get concessions from some of the code requirements. And the staff report identifies the few that we needed. But so that's our compensation. That's the way the state views it.
So how do we monitor that for, say, if you get this project approved and you are saying that the 33 unit will be affordable and you enter agreement with the city, is there a check and balance that we can make sure that you keep your word?
Absolutely, it's a binding agreement. There will be annual monitoring. I mean, it's full disclosure stuff. There's I think Mr. Burns could.
It'll be a recorded covenant on the property.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Peggy.
Thank you. I just want to clarify, with the Prado homes, we didn't give the money to the developer, we loaned it to them. So it was $8 million that we had to, loan to them, but it wasn't a We didn't pay for it, so they will pay it back. All right, I think that's it. So at this time, we'd like to open public comments. How many comments do you have? We want to make sure we hear from everyone, so, but I don't want to be here till 2 in the morning either, so.
In total, between in-person and Zoom, there's a total of 20 people.
Oh, 20 people? That's it? Okay, all right. Well,
Mr. Mayor, I have other comments to make.
oh, okay.
So I can wait till after the speakers, so.
All right, let's go ahead and hear from the speakers. That'll be about an hour by my calculation.
Okay, I'm going to start with the in-person speakers. Just a reminder, you have 3 minutes to speak. The green means your 3 minutes have begun. Yellow means you have 1 minute remaining, and red means that your 3 minutes are up. The first speaker tonight is Libby Frolickman.
Welcome.
Hello. My name is Libby Frolickman, and I'm a 22-year homeowner here in Fountain Valley. I'm here to speak about the proposed building on Slater. And as for the architecture of the 5-story building, I have no problem with that on a major thoroughfare such as Slater. Many young adults want to live in a building with where the maintenance is taken care of, with amenities such as a gym available on site. However, we need affordable housing. My 25-year-old with a high-paying job is living at home. He reminds me daily that he will never be able to afford to buy a home in California. It will be a huge mistake to build expensive rentals on Slater instead of entry-level condos. I'm sure as responsible elected representatives, you're familiar with the demographic findings from the 2020 census, but for those that don't know, Fountain Valley is becoming a retirement community. We have a larger percentage of our population that is over 65 than any surrounding city. And we have fewer children under 5 than any surrounding city. And among our surrounding cities, we have one of the lower percentages of children under 18. Also, compared to the entire county, we have more seniors and fewer minors. With statistics like these, it's no wonder that we've been closing our elementary schools due to lack of enrollment. The way to correct this trend is to build condos that young adults can afford. Ownership creates permanence and allows young families to grow equity. Rentals are for transients. I'm sure if you surveyed our Fountain Valley seniors, they'd love to have families nearby. As prices soar and entry-level homes become impossible to find, our seniors are losing access to their grandchildren. We need to be thinking much more holistically. When an opportunity presents itself to build more homes in Fountain Valley, we need to be thinking about the next generation of home owners. If we do, we have the opportunity to keep families in close proximity to each other and grow the future of our beautiful city. And since I think I have a little bit of time, a couple of observations from the presentation. The thousands of jobs nearby that were cited, I don't think most of those pay enough to pay the rent in such a complex. And that walk-up lunch bar will likely cycle through many failed businesses. There aren't enough people to walk up and buy a sandwich or a coffee in that location. They'd have to find a place to park and pull up. So I foresee lots of businesses cycling through that walk-up element to that plan. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, who's next?
Janice Dishner.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak to you today. My name is Janice Dishner, and I have been a Fountain Valley resident in this very neighborhood for 22 years. And although she mentioned transient, I would love to afford a home in Fountain Valley. I was very excited to see the Keystone homes going up on the property of the church, only to be disappointed again that I, with a $100,000 income per year, cannot afford to move in there. These luxury apartments are not for Fountain Valley. They are not for this neighborhood, and they are not for this time. My husband and I raised 2 boys here who are now 26 and 29. One has left the state because he couldn't afford to own here. So now he and his wife live in the state of Kansas. As Libby mentioned, we are now apart from our grandchildren. Our other son lives in the city of Fountain Valley, in the city of Huntington Beach, near that complex there at Beach and Ellis, and is struggling to pay his rent and raise his 7-year-old boy. So I do agree with her. There has to be affordable housing in Fountain Valley. I would love to be able to own here, but at my current income and at my current age of almost 60 years old, it is probably not going to happen for me. One of the other things that we find here in the city living in this neighborhood is parking is already at a premium. We are allowed in the Park Pacific Apartments one space, and then we can pay $30 a month for a second space. Even with that, it is very difficult for us to find parking in the evening. By the time I'm off work, I'm already reminding my husband to please leave a space open for me. I carpooled here with my sister tonight because I was afraid I couldn't get a parking space by the time the meeting was over. So I do ask you to really consider carefully putting a multi-use complex there with 270 units. Although I know that they're talking about having adequate parking, 1.8 spaces, I don't know where you park in a 0.8 of a space. So that's less than one parking space per unit. And while they've done a wonderful job in rendering, I just don't see it being for that corner of San Mateo. The other point for those of you who don't live in the area is we do have 2 elementary schools nearby. So the children that live in our neighborhood walk down San Mateo and up Slater Avenue to either go to Cox Elementary School or Masuda there on Ward. So I would hesitate to have a one single entrance with a left or a right out of that for the safety of the children. Many working parents are now asking their children to either ride their bicycles or walk to school with neighbors, and I just don't feel that having that much traffic in and out is really safe for our kids. I did also notice as I was reading the plan that it does require 3 amendments to current city rules in place. And when you have those rules in place to protect the residents, to keep it a nice place to live and to allow people to build a community like Libby said. So I do oppose the general plan amendment, the zoning designation change, and the development code amendment needed to move forward. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Rosalia Escutia.
Rosalia Escutia. Going once. Going twice. Okay, let's keep her in the stack in case she comes back.
Okay. Rudy Huebner.
Rudy Huebner.
Good evening, Mayor Harper, members of the City Council. I'm Rudy Huebner, longtime resident, and I grew up here in Fountain Valley. And I really feel that I can attest to just how wonderful this community is, how good our schools are. And as a millennial, I do echo some of the sentiments that have been expressed here tonight that my peers are getting priced out of the city. And it is incredibly unfortunate that for my generation and the generation after me, that we're not seeing a future here in Fountain Valley, but we have a moment here to change this. And this is why I support the Slater project and why I support bringing more mixed-use developments into the city. And here's why. Because, as was mentioned before, we need to increase our housing element. We have this mandate from the state. We have the RHNA numbers that we need to meet. And by embracing this opportunity, by coming together as a community, making these choices, having this public dialogue, we need to seize this moment and act before we cannot. And it was already discussed here tonight, the consequences that we face if we don't step up and meet this moment. Now, I also really support this project because looking toward the future, I know that there are already contracts in place to bring greater choice of high-speed internet into Fountain Valley. And this greater choice in high-speed internet is going to become very attractive to millennials like myself and to younger professionals that are working from home, that are learning from home. And with all of these expanded options with technology, it's going to make Fountain Valley very attractive to these high-earning people who are working from home. But yet we need a place for them. We need to be attracting the younger generations into our community so that our community is sustainable. And by attracting these younger generations, we're going to be attracting businesses. We're going to be patronizing our businesses, and we're going to be generating revenue for the city. And when I look toward the future, when I look toward the decisions that we make tonight, it is a future to be excited about. And I believe in us as a community that we can meet this challenge and we can solve this problem without compromising our values. Thank you.
Thank you.
Joe McReynolds.
Joe McReynolds.
Hello. My name is Joe McReynolds. I'm a resident of Fountain Valley, and I'm also an urban development scholar. So I've literally written a book on these issues. So I would like to say first off that there are a lot of things I do like about this plan, and if we want to make Fountain Valley affordable, we need a lot more housing of all types, aimed at all brackets. But one area I do really see of concern is the lack of appreciation for the social role that Silky Sullivan's plays in the community, and simply leaving that as a to be determined later, I think would be potentially a very great loss to the community. My research focuses on urban redevelopment projects in Tokyo, and one thing I always noticed there was that developers went to great lengths to keep businesses that were pillars of the community, even through multi-year periods of redevelopment, even if it meant giving them subsidies or other financial considerations in order to keep the business around. The point is well taken that the property was properly purchased and paid for, but that's of minimal interest, frankly, to the people for whom Silky's is a communal gathering place of the sort that is fairly rare in the disposable, here today, gone tomorrow, world of modern restaurants and small businesses. Realistically, in Fountain Valley, you have the skating rink, you have the bowling alley, and you have Silky's. And Silky's, unusually for a suburban community, attracts a wide variety of regulars who are walking there. It makes our community in many ways more walkable by its presence. So if this project is to proceed, I hope there's some real plan to not just, quote unquote, have an homage with a name, but to actually integrate Silky's in some substantial way into the new plan for the site. And I think that the bulk of the housing and financial objectives, frankly, for the site can be met while doing that. It's just a question of the willpower, both from the development side and from you all on the council, to see that as an objective worth pursuing. Thank you.
Thank you.
This individual did not put a last name. First name, Ruby.
Ruby? All right, here we go.
Hello, I'm Ruby. I live on San Luis Street. It's San Mateo and then San Luis behind it. So I'm about half a block down from Silky's, and I can just testify there's nowhere to park as it is for the people that live there. I constantly drive in circles, and then I end up parking in front of Silky's. So I know that there's 540 spots allocated, but still that's not enough, because if like 3 people from the restaurant or the art gallery or a visitor or a guest park on the street, there's just nowhere for the people to park. So I am also a millennial, and these kind of luxury apartments are great, and I would love to live in one, but the average studio is about $2,000 to $2,500 per month, and I don't know anyone that can afford it. So I don't think it's really going to be bringing in young, hip people, into the area. I understand you have an urgency to meet your RENA numbers, but I just think that this location is not a good location. I think that there will be other developments that you guys can consider later, but this particular location across from City Hall, the police station, with Silky Sullivan's, which everybody loves Silky Sullivan's. It's, a pillar of the community, a place to hang out. And the developer is speaking about, creating communal gathering spaces, and we already have that. That's Silky Sullivan's. And we don't want it demolished because it's part of the history. It was the post office, Silky Sullivan's. They have karaoke, trivia. It's just a great place to be, And 2 years of construction, oh man, I will be moving out of Fountain Valley because I can't live through 2 years of, construction about 500 feet from my door with dust flying out and noise. I mean, 2 years is a really long time. And for you guys at City Hall too, I mean, that's across the street from you. So some things to consider. I also think it's really dangerous, the one-way in, one-way out. San Mateo is a super busy street. It's hard to turn left from San Luis onto San Mateo because there's just constantly a stream of cars coming down. So if you add to that 270 more units of people coming in and out, it's going to be a total nightmare. I know that they did traffic plans and they said them at the Planning Commission meeting, but I really don't think that's accurate. I really think it's going to be a total nightmare. And the police station is across the street. I know there's a lot of talk about, you know, affordable housing and building more housing, but my issue is just with this particular area. Does that mean it's done? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Time's up. Thank you. Who we got next?
Greg Trigo?
Greg Trigo. Come on down.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for hearing my voice. I don't have anything planned, but I just want to say how absolutely bummed I am that Silky's is a staple of Fountain Valley, and it's actually going to be torn down. In LA, when there's beautiful buildings like Amoeba Records, they build around them. Here we tear them down. It's awful. I don't know if I have a question. Basically, is the Sullivans going to be somewhat like Silky's? Is there going to be live music there? Does anyone can answer that question?
We can't talk back and forth.
Okay.
You can.
So that's just something on the record, because everybody in Fountain Valley absolutely loves, and I talk for a lot of my classmates, a lot of people that I have spoken with are wanting me to come up here and say, man, they don't want Silky's to leave. So if this passes, it would be really good for it to somewhat be like Silky's, as close as possible to, you know, to ensure the city has somewhat of what we're about, Fountain Valley, you know. Another thing too, on the building, nobody talked about the fire. If there, God forbid, there's a fire, there's one way in and one way out. The emergency, the fire things, if that's, because I'm familiar with LA and they have these buildings and sometimes they don't take that into consideration. Anyways, that's all. Thank you for hearing my voice, and I just want that on the record that we love Silky Sullivans. It's a Fountain Valley staple, and I'm talking for a lot of people. So thank you guys very much.
Thank you.
K Dom?
K Dom? Okay.
It's door.
Hey, door.
Sorry, my handwriting's not real good.
Apologies. I thought it was an M.
No, 2 R's together. Anyway, thank you for having me here. Madam Mayor Pro Tem, I've got to say, I know you have a lot of really neat things to say, and you really need to pull your microphone up so we can hear it.
Yep.
Thank you.
I mean, you know, some of us are a little hard of hearing, and I know you had some good stuff to say there, and I was sorry I couldn't hear it all. But anyway, my name is Kay Dorr. We bought our house in Fountain Valley almost 50 years ago when housing was affordable. And one of the things that impressed us about the city of Fountain Valley at that time was there was no building over, I think it was 2 stories high. And over the years, it's kind of creeped up. I see a lot of 3-story things around now. And a 5-story building is just appalling to me to have in Fountain Valley. And, you know, the renderings look great and all, but it's just, I'm afraid we're all going to get closed in by these taller buildings because they'll just keep going up and up. And, I want to keep Fountain Valley a nice place to live, and I don't want us to look like Huntington Beach with all their tall buildings encroaching on the housing. And I don't live in this neighborhood, but I do live near a small strip mall and large grocery store that someday you may decide to put a 5-story apartment building right behind my house, and I really would like that. So thank you for your consideration. And I do, actually, I think the lady that talked about the affordable condominiums had a really great idea. My son bought his condominium 25 years ago with our help, but he was able to buy one because they were more affordable than houses. And I think a lot of the young people today just absolutely, I couldn't buy my own house today if I had to.
That's right.
So.
Same thing here. Thank you. All right, who's next?
Amanda Brill.
Amanda Brill.
Thank you, council members. My name is Amanda Brill, and I am the right-hand lady to William Madden, and I run Silky Sullivan's. I'm here to talk about the project that's going over across the street. I'm all about progress. Peggy, that's a beautiful project. I can't deny that. It's beautiful. However, it just doesn't fit there. It doesn't fit in that space. There are so many other places in Fountain Valley that it could fit, and it would be more successful. There's a lot of traffic that comes in out of San Mateo. With one exit and one entrance coming in off that street, it gets very dangerous. What about the people that live on El Corazon, that right on that corner? So they're going to be staring at this 6-story building from their backyard. I'm not just here to save Silkies, and yeah, I want to save Silkies. We treat you guys like family. We are like family. We're a part of the community. We've been here 38 years. I've been a part of this community for 15 years. I've run that restaurant for a very long time, and there's a lot of familiar faces that we welcome you with open arms. We treat you like there's no stranger who comes to Silkies. The only people that we don't know are people we haven't met yet. And in the community, we need something like that. Now, whether we stay here or we move, I'm going to tell you guys, you can knock us down to dust, but you can't keep us down. We're going to go somewhere else. Peggy, I appreciate you making an homage to Silky Sullivan's, but it's not the place, guys, it's the people. And we'll take our people with us, no matter what. But I'm just here to say that project it's great. It really is, and it's good for the city, and it hits your arena numbers. But again, it just doesn't fit there, guys. And that's all I have to say about that. So after the meeting, come have a drink on me. Thank you.
Thank you.
Fritz Vanderschram.
Good evening. Good evening. My name is Fritz Vanderschraff. I moved here when I was 7 years old. Grew up here. This used to be the Silkies, used to be the post office. It's a great place. I got one of my very first friends, a good friend, and got him good and drunk on his 21st birthday. It's a great experience. But what really bothers me is here you are, you're all regular customers. This place has been generating tax revenue for the city of Fountain Valley for 38 years. Where's the loyalty? That's all I have to say. Where's the loyalty to Silky Sullivan's and to people like me who want to go to Silky's, who like Silky's? If you take Silky's away, I'm out of here. I'm done. Okay? And a lot of these people will be pissed off if you take Silky's away. So, with the closing, think very hard on your decision. You're going to piss off a lot of people or make a lot of people very happy. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, who's next?
Memory Bartlett.
Memory Bartlett. All right, come on.
Good evening, Mayor, Harper, City Council. Thanks for allowing us to come and speak with you this evening. I am here to represent the Chamber of Commerce. I'm have my board's full approval, and we all support the Slater investment property and project that's going in. I've spoke at the GPAC meeting, I spoke at Planning Commission meeting, so I think that my words are pretty clear. And our whole idea of where the chamber's coming from in regards to this project is that, as the woman who spoke first this evening said, we have an aging community here, which we love. I mean, the seniors are some of my favorite people in Fountain Valley. But when we're looking to attract new business, they are looking for a very targeted demographic, 25 to 50-year-olds in that range. And we don't have that. I'm the CEO of your Chamber of Commerce, and I can't even afford to live here. Or you don't have a place I would like to rent. Most of them are older, aging places. I've told Peggy before that as soon as she gets it built, I'll be one of the first people there, and I will be one walking because I can walk right across the street to my office. As we attract those younger generation, millennials and young executives, that will in turn attract businesses to this city that are looking for that demographic, which, as they were speaking about before, will create tax revenue for eons to come. But all of that is stuff that I've already said before, most of you know. I want to speak to a few of the comments that were made here this evening. One of them, the gentleman who was an urban development planner, that was so interesting, and I think he already left, but I would love, oh, there he is, okay. That was so interesting, and he said something I think that needs to be shouted a little bit more, and that is that if you want affordable housing, you need to build a lot more housing. That's why the RENA numbers are there. The RENA numbers have been put out to all these cities because we don't have affordable living. And if you want affordable living, it's a supply and demand thing. You need a lot more of it. And although I do believe heavily in home ownership, you do need varied levels. You need some apartments, some home ownership, some condos, and we need a lot of it if we want to make it more affordable. Second thing I want to mention really quickly is I know that everybody loves Silkies. Silkies has been a chamber partner forever, and we love Silkies. But I think that everybody should really take a moment to understand that Silkies is a privately run business, and I'm speaking more to the people back here, who sold their, they sold that piece of property.
Excuse me, please wrap it up.
I will. So with that lease expiring in January, that's all that can be done. And so I'm sure that Peggy will take into account everybody's words about wanting something like that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Andrew Gustin.
Andrew Gustin.
Hi, my name is Andrew Gustin. I'm a resident of Fountain Valley for over 12 years. I live within walking distance from here. My family and will be directly impacted by this project. I hope that you guys will vote against it. Slater Avenue is already a very high volume traffic corridor. I mean, it was faster for me to walk here tonight than to drive because of the traffic that is already on Slater. Speaking of Silkies, I go there quite often. I don't know if I should say that, but and I walk there, and over the last year, I've nearly been plowed down several times trying to cross the street here. So adding 500, 600 more cars a day, it's not 54 cars an hour or something like that. It's many, many more that are going to be added to that. It's just going to make it that much more unsafe. There's clearly not going to be enough parking for all the residents there, so they're going to be flooding the streets just like they do today. We already have apartments in this area. We know how it goes, right? There's not enough parking. There's tons of traffic that come with it. If you guys approve this, it looks like Mr. Bowie seemed very for it. I hope we can identify a project just like this to put right next to your house. Yep. So, we have to reject this progressive California idea of, having this high-density mixed-use buildings. It's a great idea and concept, but it doesn't really work, and we need to reject it. And I hope that the council will reject it tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wallace Rodecker.
Wallace Rodecker. There we go.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Wallace Rodecker. I own the property next door to the proposed development. I also am a resident of Fountain Valley. I live in Green Valley, which is within walking distance of here. And I agree that there's definitely been some traffic issues, but I think it's worth noting that the last several years have been something unique to us. We've had a tremendous amount of construction going on with bridges, and so I don't think it's entirely fair to blame the traffic just on the city of Fountain Valley. Losing half of our bridges has definitely had an impact on that. There's been discussion here, quite a bit of discussion tonight about the price of housing in Fountain Valley and how high it is and how nobody can afford to live here. I would beg to differ. Clearly, a lot of people can afford to live here because everybody apparently is sucking up all the housing. And I may be a little rusty on my economics, but the last time I checked, and to speak to what Memory said, supply and demand are what equal price. So if we want to do something about the price of housing, we need to increase the supply. Peggy is willing to build 270 units across the street from here, and that's not going to solve the problem. That's going to put a dent in it. And she's not the only one that's willing to build housing in here. There's quite a few people who are willing to build additional housing. Peggy's are going to be apartments, and those won't be for sale, but there are many other people who will be building condominiums or even homes that will be for sale. Condominiums and townhouses are obviously the ideal way to go because those fit the target price range. My project at Los Caballeros is already within the affordable guidelines without any sort of incentives or help, just because that's the way it's built and that's the demographic and that's our price point, between $400,000 and $500,000. That's the typical price there, and that's about the price of rent in most areas. On the subject of business, there was concerns that the business they're going to put in there isn't going to draw any kind of people, but I would disagree with that. Besides the residents of Peggy's building, my building, which is across the street, has 60 people working in it, plus about 100 patrons per day, and my building is small by comparison to the hospital next door, so I'm going to guess that they're actually going to get quite a bit of walk-up traffic. With regard to Silkies, I would like to invite them to move into my building. I've got 10,000 square feet right across the street. The city's going to have to help me work out the logistics of it, but then you guys only have to walk 50 feet further and you've got your Silkies. So just throwing that out there. In any case, I'm in support of Peggy's project. I think it will help take some pressure off of housing, and I think aesthetically she's designed it nicely. It doesn't look like a 5-story building from the street, so it'll be fun to see what it actually turns into. Thank you.
Thank you.
Stephen Schultz.
Stephen Schultz.
Do I wait for the light or just start going? Okay. The video was very beautiful, and I started to ask myself, could I see myself living in this complex? And then I noticed some of the cars in the video, and there was a Bentley, there was a Hummer, there was a Porsche, there's two Ferraris. So I'm not sure. You use the word luxury. What kind of prices are we talking about here? Because I haven't heard a price yet, but I know I don't own any of those cars. I don't own property in Fountain Valley either, and I've lived here since I was born. And I would love to be able to own a property here and not rent an apartment. And so I'm not here to talk yes or no on this specific project, but we need to do more to bring condos and affordable housing to this city. The house I was renting, which the owner just sold, hadn't been touched inside since 1990. It went on the market for $1.5 million the same day, got an offer for 1.6. I think we'll sell somewhere around 1.7. So if Silky sold for $2 million, that's not a very good deal for all that land. Homes are selling for almost $2 million. But what we can do to bring affordable rent and ownership here would be huge. And I know you don't have full control over that, but I was just recently looking for apartments here, and the Havens, one of my former players, rented there a two-bedroom about 6 months ago, and I went there, and the price they quoted me for a one-bedroom was more than he's paying for his two-bedroom right now. A two-bedroom condo at the Havens to rent apartment is $3,600, which is more than the two-story house I was renting in Irvine less than 2 years ago. And so, again, the place I found, I'm living now in Fountain Valley, there was never enough parking there either. And so when apartments are going for more than houses were going less than 2 years ago, I'm not sure how myself as a teacher could ever afford to live here. And it's important to have teachers who are nearby so we can attend the events we go to all the time. And so while luxury rentals might be nice, we need to also do more to find apartments and homes that don't cost $1.5 to $2 million. So please keep that in mind for future projects. I didn't hear anything about guest parking either in that complex. These young hip families, do we not have friends? I'm not sure where are our friends going to park if we live in these condos. That matters too. And I'd also like to hear the price as well, which would be nice to hear what these are going for. But it looks beautiful. But those are some nice cars in that video too. So let's try and lower the price for everything here, not just luxury apartments. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Before I go on to Zoom speakers, I'm going to call on the other card that did not speak, Rosalia Escutia.
Good evening. My name is Rosalia Escutia, and I have been a resident of Fountain Valley for 17 years. It is the first time I am passionate about something enough to come to speak at a city council meeting. I follow the city, I follow the school district, as I had been a parent and a resident, so I follow the agencies, the organizations that impact my life. I've always trusted the people I voted for to look out for us and to take care of our city. I am very nervous about the approval of this project, and I trust that City Council is not going to rush and say yes because of the scare tactics, that the state will do this, the state. We voted in what we believe are confident and competent people that are willing to fight for us and not take the easy route and say, yes, we will approve. With some of you, I've been out on the fields with our kids playing sports. Some of you may live in my community. And I am here asking, please look out for your residents. This area is so congested in traffic. I do not know what was in people's coffee this morning if they think it's not going to have an impact. Have you been on Slater between Los Jardines and Brookhurst? Between 4 and 5? Where it takes you almost 30 minutes to cross? I am asking you, please think of the residents. Don't just think of the residents of Fountain Valley that live closer to the Huntington Beach site. Think of all the residents you will be impacting. They are your voters. Please think of us and the impact it's going to have. I trust and I hope I voted for confident and competent people. Please think of this side of Fountain Valley. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm now going to transition over to the Zoom speakers. First up is Victoria Yunt.
Victoria, yeah, okay.
Good evening. My name is Victoria Yunt. I'm an attorney at Lazo Jury, and I'm speaking on behalf of Supporters Alliance for Environmental Responsibility, or SAFER. SAFER submitted detailed written comments on February 24th that included expert comments from certified industrial hygienist Francis Oferman and environmental consulting firm SWAFE. SAFER also submitted comments yesterday, along with a rebuttal from Mr. Offerman to the city's response to comments in support of SAFER's February 24th comments requesting that the city prepare an EIR for the Slater Avenue mixed-use project. SAFER requests that the City Council refrain from adopting the resolutions recommended by city staff, which includes approval of the M&D for the proposed project until an EIR is prepared. Based on Mr. Offerman and SWAPE's expert comments, the M&D's conclusion regarding the project's less than significant air quality and health risk impacts is incorrect for two reasons. First, there is substantial evidence that the project will have a significant health risk impact from its indoor air quality impacts for several reasons. Reason one, the city incorrectly stated that Mr. Offerman didn't describe how the asserted formaldehyde-related cancer risk of 120 per million would occur and didn't identify any project-specific conditions that would lead to impacts. Mr. Offerman's rebuttal letter reiterates that the risk calculation was based on residential occupants' inhalation of 20 cubic meters of air per day, which led to an average 70-year lifetime formaldehyde daily dose of 482 micrograms per day for continuous exposure in residences. These numbers, in turn, were based on technical reports on the subject and are therefore correct. Next, Mr. Offerman counters the city's statement that the emissions levels it calculated were in compliance with the Prop 65 safe harbor level for formaldehyde. Instead, Mr. Offerman points out that the products that are manufactured according to the CARB Airborne Toxic Control Measures Phase 2 regulations, which is the standard the city is relying on, are not manufactured to meet Prop 65 safe harbor standards. Lastly, in Mr. Offerman's opinion, further analysis of the project conditions is necessary to determine which level of MERV air filters are required to achieve acceptable indoor particulate matter concentrations. Second, there is substantial evidence that the project will have a significant health risk impact from diesel particulate matter impacts. Most importantly, the M&D inadequately analyzed the project's impact on human health from emissions of DPM on nearby sensitive receptors. Based on SWAPE's health risk assessment, the excess risk from DPM for infants, children, and lifetime residents exceeds the South Coast CEQA threshold of 10 in 1 million. Even after SWAPE provided this information, the city staff's response to comments still failed to recommend that an adequate health risk assessment be carried out. Given the substantial evidence of significant health risk impact from project emissions, the city should prepare an EIR that includes a health risk analysis and proper mitigation measures. That concludes my comment. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
J. Town.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So you all know how I feel about this project. And like others have said, it is a beautiful project. The presentation is outstanding. It's not in the right place. It doesn't fit there for all the traffic reasons, all the reasons everybody has just articulated so much better than I can. I've lived in Fountain Valley since 1980. It's a nice place to live. I'd like to keep it a nice place to live. So I speak up at these council meetings in the hopes that somebody will listen. And I frequently don't find that you do listen. So maybe today will be different. This project will change the look and feel of our beautiful city forever. I don't care if it's 10 or 20 stories at Boomers or at Los Cab. There are no 1 or 2 story homes nearby. This should never be high density housing that overlooks existing 1 and 2 story homes. It just is wrong. If this is built, there's one entrance and exit on San Mateo, a little 2-lane residential street that already can't support the traffic that it has. How does that make sense? We don't have water. We don't have public transportation. We don't have resources to support all of these new units. I agree with Cheryl Brothers. It's a nice project. It's in the wrong place. There's big plazas. They're really nice, but there's a homeless problem. I live near Ellis Park. They come and hang out at our park. They sleep in our park. They're going to sleep in those little nice little places. We don't have the resources to take care of the problems we already have. We can't afford to hire enough people to take care of all the problems we already have. Please don't do this. Please don't do this. It's a beautiful project, but it doesn't belong across from City Hall. It doesn't belong overlooking the housing that's already there. If you add the 5 stories plus, you've got to put the 6th story because they're putting activity on the roof. So all those people up there, that makes it 6 stories. I don't care if it has a roof on it or not. It's a 6th story. Please don't do this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Valerie Trueblood.
Hello, council members, mayor, thank you for letting me speak. I've been watching these matters through the Planning Commission, and a lot of people have brought up really great things. It is a nicer aesthetic than I've seen in other cities, but as with other people, I agree, it's totally out of character for the neighborhood. We do not need tall buildings, bright lighting, which I do notice is around the city now, just blaring lights on parking lots and such, and it's not something for our neighborhood. In regard to traffic, I don't know when the traffic study was done. A lot of people have said in previous things that the comment is that the traffic is going to go away when the freeway construction goes. But long before the freeway construction started, Slater has been a very bad traffic situation, especially at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. But perhaps one of the most concerning matters that I have, that I think people should know about, and have been, I've not heard anybody bring them up that I can recall. But first and foremost is that there are several council members here who have taken donations from Slater Investments. And I'd like to just say that Council Member Bowie, you took $400 on August 31st of 20 for your campaign from Slater Investments. At that time, you vowed to protect your small neighborhoods. This is according to your website. And I don't think voting for something like this is protecting our neighborhood. Councilmember Vo, you took $2,100 from the Slater Investments for your supervisor campaign. And if you want to say that's not going to affect how you're voting today, I'm going to call you out on it, because I can't imagine that you could not remember or think of Slater Investments giving you that $2,100. And Mayor Harper, you received $500 from Slater Investments back in August 25th of 2018. You've also been a planning commissioner, and I'm not sure if you were on there when you were helping plan this out, but I think the three of you, Bowie, Vo, and Harper, should all recuse yourself from voting on this.
Valerie, your time is up.
I don't think it's right. Thank you.
All right, before we call the next public speaker, I'd like to address the issue of campaign contributions. And first of all, The campaign contributions we receive from many people, and we like to think that it's because they feel that we'll make decisions that are in the best interest of the community, and that's why anyone would contribute to us. And I think I speak for the council where we will, we're going to make decisions that we feel are in the best interest of the city, regardless of what contributions we receive, whether it's from my mom or a builder or anybody.
No.
So
You weren't taking any questions. You're taking questions. You said you weren't taking any questions.
All right, we'll address the next public speaker.
Mr. Mayor, while we are on this subject.
Sure, Council Member Vo.
While we're on this subject, I would like to hear our city attorney to explain to the public about the conflict of interest.
All right.
And whether the campaign donation are legal or not. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. City Attorney, yes.
Well, are they legal? Yes, and there's no conflict of interest. I mean, the highest court in the land, the Supreme Court, recently said that they're completely separate from a personal financial gain. There's no financial gain here. This money that's a campaign donation they don't get to use it for personal uses. It doesn't go in their pocket. It goes into a separate account that is segregated. It is accounted for because it's accounted for and it's disclosed to the FPPC, a state commission that takes a look at every single penny. They can only use these things for very specific things. It is free speech for the persons donating, and it helps to have an informed electorate. All of the FPPC disclosures are public documents. You can go and get them. Okay. Okay, hang on. The campaign donations are part of speech. The courts have held it for decades. None of this money goes to benefit any one of these council members in their personal finances. So that's why the courts have said there's no conflict. Taking a campaign donation does not create a conflict.
Thank you for clarifying that. Thank you for clarifying that. Yeah, Councilmember Bowie.
Thank you, Mayor Harper. I'd like to add a few things that you also said, Mayor Harper, is for the lady that is on the Zoom, thank you for being here and exercising your civic duty. This is democracy, and I respect your view, and you're absolutely entitled to your own opinion. Please allow me to remind everyone what our city goals are. Enhance economic development, achieve financial stability, attract, develop, and retain quality staff with financial constraint, maintain and enhance infrastructure and facility, enhance community outreach and engagement. So after Attorney Colin Burns' explanations on the legal donation contributions, and I understand the city's goal, I find it to be a non-issue here. I can assure you all that our council in this chamber, their vote will be with a clear mind, with good intentions. It will be fair to all concerned. It will build a better city. It will be beneficial to all concerned, to the end, a nice place for the future generation. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next speaker.
Darrell Brown.
Kind of wish I didn't follow that, but I'm Darrell Brown, and I have several points to bring up. One of them being, I've heard the presentation twice from Peggy and Slater Investments. I've heard the parking issue. I don't believe there is enough parking, as other people have stated, especially for if you're going to have businesses and such, for even just the employees of the business and spaces for people who live there. Regardless if you hire some sort of management company to deal with that at some future time, wonderful. Maybe they can, maybe they can't. It doesn't change the fact that if a building goes up and isn't accessible to the people who rent it, people will leave. There is a portion that is, I keep hearing from the RENA numbers, we need to do 4,800 housing things, whatever. They need to be affordable housing. First of all, RENA says affordable housing, low income, and market value housing. Luxury apartments are not what I consider market value dwellings for the people we are trying to address. I have a huge concern about if and when, since we do suppositions and we assume there'll be less parking, people will have all these jobs, we'll attract the people who will be employed, and we don't need to worry about extra traffic, extra noise, anything like that. When people start leaving and you have a complex that's there and you need to make your payments, and I thought I heard that there's a component with HUD, but I may have misunderstood that. If this unit is in that mode of accepting Section 8 type vouchers, the Slater Investments will be paid 70% of the asking rent price from the state, guaranteed automatically. There's nothing to stop them once a unit is up, and if they start losing tenants due to parking issues or whatever, that the whole dealio doesn't become a low socioeconomic area. Socioeconomic entity. There are other ways to meet the RENA numbers that I have suggestions for. I don't think they're appropriate for this particular project to mention them at this time, but I'd be happy to share those with you at some other point in time. So basically, the big issues are the parking, the jobs that are being specified as can be for the people who are moving into these units, so forth. I just don't think that's realistic. Another thing I've brought up before, and I didn't hear it again this time, is San Mateo, I believe, is Civic Center on the other side of the street, which leads into the police station. There is traffic. I don't care if it's freeways or anything else. When there's an emergency call from the police, how on earth are they going to get through if there's traffic there, regardless if the parking's been enforced or not? They can't. They can't get to their calls unless I'm missing something and there's some other exit that they can get to. I think it's a safety concern. I think it's an aesthetic concern, not from the building itself, but within the place it is within the neighborhood. I'm sure I'm getting close to my 3 minutes, so I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is Leston Trueblood.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello? Oh, great. This is Leston Trueblood. I'm outraged that Councilmember Bowie is going to be voting on the Slater Investments project. Mr. Bowie has received well over $10,000 from Slater Investments in campaign contributions, and I think he should recuse himself from voting on this project. I would hope if Mr. Bowie decides to approve this project and destroy the quality of life in Fountain Valley, that no one should vote for Mr. Bowie in the upcoming election for California State Assembly. I do not believe that Mr. Bowie is a trustworthy and honorable representative for the quality of life for citizens here in Fountain Valley. Mr. Grandis should also recuse himself from voting on the Slater Investments proposal because he lives too close possibly to the project. I would hope that he would formally be reprimanded and fined if he votes on the Slater Investment project if he lives closer than 500 feet to the project as the crow flies. I believe that Mr. Grandis is also taking contributions from Slater Investments. I believe Councilmember Michael Vo, he's also taking campaign contributions from Slater Investments. If Mr. Vo decides to vote for this project, I would encourage people not to vote for Mr. Vo if he decides to run to be a county supervisor. I'd also like to know, will Slater Investments abandon their interest in the project after the possible approval of the project? What keeps Slater Investments from selling the property to a new developer? Will the new developer or owner of the property be bound to the same legal aspects of the project? As Cheryl Brothers said so well, nice project, wrong location. Many of our council members, you've lost focus of quality of life for citizens in your voting, and I think this is really going to be remembered at election time. Please vote no on this project. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is Rich Gomez.
Thank you, Mayor and Council members. My name is Rich Gomez. I am a longtime resident of Fountain Valley. I'm a homeowner. I am with the Southwest Regional Council of Carpenters. I'm representing our members that live in the city, our city, and the surrounding communities. You know, I believe that this will impact me by the environmental impacts of the project. The city should require the projects to be built utilizing a local and skilled and trained workforce if the council approves. Local hire and skilled and trained workforce requirements reduce construction-related environmental impacts while benefiting local economy. In a recent 2020 report titled Putting California on the High Road, a Jobs and Climate Action Plan for 2030, the California Workforce Development Board concluded that investments in growing, diversifying, and upskilling California's workforce can positively affect returns on climate mitigation efforts. So basically, who is Slater going to use if they are approved to build this project? Who will they use? Are they going to use reputable contractors that hire locally, that keep the money in the community? Are they going to be able to hire contractors from out of state who are bad actors, who exploit their workforce? You know, we provide jobs for kids that are in high school, or even residents of our community that choose not to go to college, that, you know, can earn a livable wage and benefits for themselves and their families. My question here, like Leslie just said, there's a project in Santa Ana that has flipped 3 times now, a multifamily development project. I hope the council will consider this. And please ask Slater Investment, who do you plan to be the general contractor? Who do you plan on using? Are you going to use a reputable contractor that's just not going to leave this job high and dry? So once again, thank you, council, for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Thank you.
Next up is AV.
Hi, good evening, everyone. So I'm actually a resident in Fountain Valley for quite a bit of time now, and the concerns, I guess, rather I have is that this building, although it does look nice, it was advertised as an affordable luxury residential place. So I'm not an economist, but I don't think affordable and luxury belong in the same place. I may be wrong, but. Anyway, although yes, it does. There is a point that building more housing is what is needed to alleviate the California housing problem. I do agree with that 100%. But building luxury housing, I don't think is the right solution to this. What we need more is that we need more units that are not luxury and that people can actually afford with an average income. And I speak for my family. Between my spouse and myself, we make close to $200,000 a year, and yet we can't afford to rent in Fountain Valley. We're pretty much maxing out our budget at this point. So, and this being luxury, I can only imagine how much more expensive it's going to get. So I don't think the luxury portion of this is a good idea. What we need more is just standard housing that people can afford, average Joe can afford. And also what I wanted to mention was that the building is mentioned that it's going to be up to 6 stories tall. And if I understand it correctly, those 6 stories are going to be adjacent to El Corazon and the Havens community next door. So rather than being on the San Mateo and Slater Avenue facing those sides of the roads. So the concern that I also have with that is that it also, I don't know if anyone has thought of this or not, but that it's also going to lead to blocking the sunlight that those residents receive in that area, and they receive because of the way the homes are located over there. Some of those homes and in both of those neighborhoods already receive very little to no sunlight as it is, and with this 6-story building is going to reduce that to pretty much no sunlight at all. And I think it's been proven by science and many studies that have shown that in the past that lack of sunlight, it does take a not only physical but a mental health toll on people as well. So I think, like many other people have said, this might be a good project, might be a good building, but just in the wrong location. It should not belong in this place at all. And also also I want to add that it's also going to cause a lot of environmental concern as well, because there are so many homes nearby with kids and everything. Is it going to cause any health concern to them with demolition and construction as well? So I think those should be considered. And lastly, the city should not look beyond the money that's going to receive as $11 million one-time fee. Look beyond that. Look at what it could lose when residents start leaving in the long term. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is John Paul Mastropalo.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
All right, thank you. I would like to thank the council for listening to all of us. I do appreciate that. I'm a longtime resident of Fountain Valley, went to Fountain Valley High School. I'm an alumni. I would like to echo the sentiments of Silky Sullivan's being the pillar of the community. I would very much like something that would incorporate Silkies or something that the city council could do to help them stay within the community. Also, in addition, I would like to point out that, I've lived here pretty much all my life, and I have struggled to find affordable housing. And I think there's been many people already discussing this. Some people with a reasonably good income, or actually a lot of people with reasonably good income that spoke today and say that they can't afford to buy their own home. I would say one of my biggest issues with this project is that, again, echoing other people, is it's not ownership. I would appreciate it more if it was ownership. And I think I agree with a lot of people that this is not necessarily the best location. I went to Masuda Middle School. I'm pretty familiar with that area. I used to go to Nick's Pizza all the time. And in the mornings and in the evenings, it is very, very busy. And I don't think adding a multi-layer, multi-level housing is going to necessarily help with that. I would focus on potential like condo ownership housing. I think that would be better for the future of Fountain Valley. And just to wrap it up, I'm definitely going to consider this in the next election. Just keep that in mind. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That's all the requests I have to speak on Zoom, but there are 2 more in-person cards that I'm gonna call on.
Okay.
First speaker is Cheryl Brothers.
All right.
Good evening. Thank you, Mayor and City Council. As I said in the Planning Commission meeting, this is too much building on that property. And you've heard a lot of sentiment here tonight about homeownership versus renters. And I think you would find in social studies that ownership generates more investment in their community. And has anyone asked what the range of rent will be? And their idea of low income and affordability is at 80% of the median income, and that's not very low. There is 2 or 3 more levels of low income, and they didn't go there. But for that, the state has granted them 33 more units, which probably added to the height. This will be a substantial change from what people in Fountain Valley have come to expect for living. And much as we have done in the past with buildings that are going to reach or exceed a height limit, is to ask the applicant, the contractors, to float balloons at each corner of the project and at the highest point, so that everybody in the community gets a real visual. I mean, looking at their PowerPoint is one thing, but you don't get the same impact as you do when you can look up and see how tall that building's going to be. So we've had contractors who have done that in the past, and I don't think that's too big of an ask. And one more thing, there are some distressed shopping centers in the last 2 years who have had renters in their units who haven't paid rent, and they're looking now to convert their shopping centers to housing. So I ask you not to rush into meeting your RENA units with something this massive and something that will change the character of Fountain Valley. Thank you.
Thank you.
Steve Nagel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council members. Steve Nagel. I live at 9800 James River Circle, Fountain Valley. And having been on that side of the dais before, I want to bring to your attention that this project, as said many times throughout tonight, isn't really the project for this area. When I sat up there, we looked at different projects around the town, and we did, like Cheryl said, we put balloons up to see the height limitations and what the effects are going to be. We have two buildings in town, Hyundai and Orange Coast Memorial, that are over 100 feet. And this one's going to be 76 feet and 6 stories. I guarantee the Havens may change their name to Shady Acres because they won't see the afternoon sun come into their facility. I think if you were in the same situation they may be in living there, you wouldn't like it too much when the sun disappears for most of the year. The south side in the wintertime, you ain't gonna see the sun. In the summertime to fall, you aren't gonna see the sun either on the east side of the project. So please remember the conditions that you're going to create should this go through, and that's up to you. And but also you need to know fire access isn't a very good doesn't have a very good look to it, in my opinion. Having been the fire marshal in town, you've got one entry and one exit, and the access points to this project is not really too good for a fire engine to get in or an ambulance to come in and do a rescue and go up 6 floors with probably 4 elevators feeding the project. And I think it's going to take a while for people to get in there to make access, and also the setbacks from the street to reach the higher points of the project with a ladder truck is going to be very difficult. So look at the safety features that are built into this building and not jump too quick into approving something like this. We have an obligation to our residents and make sure that we have moderate planning and make sure that we are very cautious and very cognizant of those that have to live in the city and want to stay here for a long time. So anyway, I agree with some of the people that called in that those of you that may be within 500 feet of this project should recuse yourself from the project. And let's not put a tape measure out, but you know how close you are, and perception and optics are very important to those of you that sit on that side of the bench. Thank you.
Thank you.
That is all the requests I have to speak tonight.
Okay, thanks. This time I'm going to close the public hearing.
Do I get to rebut?
And we're going to take a short recess for a comfort break. We've all been sitting for a long time, so let's reconvene. It's a little bit before 9, so come back at 9.